Welcome to the deep dive. Ready to explore something new? Today we're going deep into the world of Kotlin.
Kotlin.
Yeah. Maybe you're thinking about learning a new programming language
No.
or just heard the buzz and want to know what it's all about.
Right.
So we've got this source. It's called Metin Yapıştırıldı.
Okay.
And it seems to be a pretty comprehensive overview of Kotlin.
Interesting.
Yeah, and one of the things we found out is that Kotlin was created to try to make coding easier and more efficient than Java.
Well, that's a pretty ambitious goal, isn't it?
It is. So are you ready to dive in?
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
Okay. So one of the most fascinating things about Kotlin right off the bat is that it was created by a company called JetBrains.
JetBrains, yeah, I've heard of them. They make some pretty popular coding tools.
They do, like IntelliJ IDEA,
Yeah.
And get this, they actually named the language after an island, Kotlin Island, near their headquarters.
Oh, wow. That's like how Silicon Valley got its name?
Exactly. Kind of cool, right?
Yeah, that is a fun fact.
But, you mentioned that Kotlin was designed to be better than Java.
Yeah.
So what makes it so special? What makes it better?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is that Kotlin can achieve a lot of the same things as Java,
Okay.
but with way less code.
Seriously.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
imagine like you're building a simple app feature, and in Java it takes you like, let's say, 10 lines of code.
Oh, yeah.
In Kotlin, you could probably do it in like 3 or 4 lines.
Wow.
So less code means fewer chances for errors.
Makes sense.
And it's much easier to read, so it's win-win.
Yeah, so it's like streamlining the whole coding process.
Exactly.
But does less code mean less power?
No, not at all. In fact, Kotlin is packed with all of these features that make it even more powerful than Java in some ways.
Okay.
So for example, have you ever heard of the dreaded null pointer exception?
I can't say that I have.
So this is a common error in Java,
Okay.
and it can actually crash your app.
Oh, that doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, not fun at all. But Kotlin has this thing built in called null safety, which basically prevents that type of error from even happening.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's like having a safety net for your code.
I like that.
Yeah, it makes it much more reliable.
That's impressive. But I'm guessing a lot of developers out there are already using Java.
Of course.
Can they, easily switch to Kotlin?
Yeah.
Or would they have to start from scratch?
No, that's one of the great things about Kotlin. It's actually designed to work seamlessly with Java.
Oh, okay.
So you can actually use both languages in the same project.
Wow.
So if you're a Java developer, you can gradually incorporate Kotlin to your work.
Oh, okay.
And even use existing Java libraries.
So it's like having the best of both worlds.
Exacto.
Now, this Metin Yapıştırıldı overview, it also mentioned something called extension functions.
Yes.
What are those all about?
Okay, so extension functions are really cool.
Okay.
They basically let you add new capabilities to existing code
Okay.
without actually modifying the original code itself.
Oh.
So think of it like this. Let's say you have a toolbox with a bunch of tools.
Okay.
With extension functions, you can basically add a brand new tool to that toolbox without having to rebuild the whole thing.
So you're not changing the original code, you're just kind of expanding what it can do.
Exactly.
That's pretty slick.
Yeah, it makes your code way more flexible and adaptable,
Okay.
especially when you're working with existing libraries or frameworks.
So it sounds like there are a lot of advantages to using Kotlin.
There are.
This is just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah.
I'm also curious about these coroutines that keep popping up.
Right.
They seem to be a big deal in Kotlin.
They are a big deal.
What are they all about?
Okay, so coroutines are all about handling tasks that take time to complete,
Okay.
like downloading data from the internet.
Oh, okay.
So imagine you're scrolling through a social media feed,
Right.
and each post has an image.
Yeah.
With coroutines, you can download those images in the background without making the app freeze up while you're waiting.
Oh, okay.
So it's all about keeping things smooth and responsive for the user.
Got it. So coroutines are like the multitasking wizards of Kotlin,
You got it.
making sure everything runs efficiently behind the scenes.
Exactly.
But let's be honest, no language is perfect.
Yeah.
Are there any drawbacks to using Kotlin?
There are a few things to keep in mind.
Okay.
So one thing is, even though it's generally easier to learn than Java,
Right.
it can still be a bit challenging for someone who's completely new to programming.
So a basic understanding of programming concepts is still essential,
Absolutely.
regardless of the language.
Yeah, and another thing is the Kotlin community, it's growing rapidly,
Oh.
but it's still not as large as the Java community.
I see.
So that just means that there might be slightly fewer resources or libraries available for very specific tasks.
That makes sense, yeah. A larger community usually means more, like shared knowledge and support.
Exactly. But overall, the benefits of Kotlin, especially its modern features and its focus on making coding safer and more efficient, makes it a really good choice for a lot of developers.
Yeah, from what we've covered so far, it sounds like Kotlin is kind of a game changer in the programming world.
It is.
But it's time to move beyond the technical details
Yes.
and see how Kotlin is actually used in the real world.
Let's get into it.
Stay with us as we explore how Kotlin is making its mark in various fields.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're back and ready to see how Kotlin is being used in the real world.
I'm excited to get into this.
Yeah, me too. So we've heard about all these cool features, but how are people actually putting them to use?
Well, I think the most prominent use case, as we touched on a little bit earlier, is in Android development.
Right.
So Google, the company behind Android, they officially adopted Kotlin as a preferred language a while back in 2017.
Well, it's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while, and since then, it's basically become like the go-to language for building Android apps.
So if you're like dreaming of creating the next big mobile game or some helpful productivity app, then Kotlin is your best bet.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a
Yeah.
great way to put it.
Okay, so it's not just limited to Android though, right?
Right.
Remember we talked about those cross-platform capabilities?
Yes.
With Kotlin multi-platform?
Exactly.
Developers can just write code once and use it on like all these different platforms.
Exactly, yeah. So Android, iOS, web, even desktop applications.
Wow, it's a huge time saver, I imagine.
It is.
And it's gaining popularity pretty quickly.
Yes.
Wow, so it's not just a kind of one-trick pony.
Yeah.
You can handle pretty much any type of app that you can think of.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
Okay, great.
It's even starting to make inroads in back-end development.
Really?
Yeah, that's the server side of things
Right.
that power websites and online services.
Yeah.
So there are frameworks like Creator and Spring Boot, which are really popular with Kotlin developers for
Yep.
building like robust and scalable back-end systems.
I always thought back-end development was all about languages like Python or Java.
Well, those languages are certainly still very common in back-end development.
Yeah.
But Kotlin is starting to kind of show its advantages in that area as well.
Oh, okay.
That conciseness and the focus on safety that we talked about
Right.
can make a big difference, especially when you're managing like really complex back-end systems.
So it's proving its worth beyond just the like mobile app world.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So is it being used anywhere else?
It's even finding applications in data science and machine learning,
Wow.
although it's not as widely used as Python in those fields yet.
Okay.
But those features that we talked about, strong typing and null safety,
Right.
really appealing for data scientists
Okay.
because they need to write really reliable and robust code.
It sounds like Kotlin is kind of everywhere these days.
It really is.
From your phone to the cloud to even like complex data analysis, it's really making its mark.
Yeah, and I think that's only going to continue.
Well, that brings up another question then. What does the future hold for Kotlin?
Mm.
Is this just a temporary surge in popularity, or is it here to stay?
Given its rapid growth, the strong backing from Google, and this kind of vibrant community of people who are constantly developing new tools and libraries,
Yeah.
I would say that Kotlin is definitely here to stay.
That's exciting. I mean, it's continuously evolving
Yeah.
and expanding into new domains, which makes it a very exciting language to be a part of.
Absolutely.
It sounds like Kotlin is not just kind of riding the wave, it's actually creating the wave.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
And I can see why so many developers are so eager to kind of jump on board.
Yeah.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a quick look at some of the key tools and frameworks that kind of make Kotlin so powerful.
Okay.
You mentioned Creator and Spring Boot earlier.
Yeah.
What else should developers kind of know about?
Well, so we talked about Kotlin multi-platform, and that's crucial for building cross-platform applications
All right.
because it lets developers share core logic across different platforms,
Okay.
and that minimizes redundancy and really streamlines the development process.
Right. It's like that write once, run anywhere
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah.
What about, are there any other libraries or frameworks that kind of stand out?
Yeah, there's a library called Exposed,
Exposed. Okay.
and Exposed basically simplifies database access.
Okay.
Because, dealing with databases can be a little bit complex,
Yeah.
but Exposed makes it much easier to interact with databases in Kotlin.
Interesting.
So it's like having a translator that speaks both Kotlin and database language fluently.
Okay. So Exposed, it helps you kind of like tame the wild world of databases.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
Okay, are there any other like essential tools that you would recommend?
Well, for Android UI development, there's a new, well, relatively new, it's gaining a lot of traction. It's called Jetpack Compose. And Jetpack Compose lets developers build beautiful and intuitive user interfaces
Okay.
in a way that can be much more efficient than traditional approaches.
So if you're building an Android app, Jetpack Compose is the tool to reach for.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right.
It's becoming increasingly popular for building those modern Android UIs, and it works really well with Kotlin.
Okay, great. And then, of course, we can't forget about coroutines.
The coroutines, of course.
We talked about them earlier. They are a fundamental part of Kotlin, right?
Yes.
It's not just some, like, external library.
Yeah, they're built right in.
They make handling those asynchronous tasks much easier.
Yeah, much easier.
So it's like having this built-in, like, multitasking superpower,
Exactly.
right, within the language itself.
You got it.
Okay, coroutines are a key ingredient in making Kotlin applications, like super responsive and efficient, right?
Yes, especially when you're dealing with things like network requests or background processing.
So we've heard about a lot of the great things that Kotlin offers.
Yeah.
But I know that there are a lot of people out there who are kind of wondering, how does it stack up against good old Java?
That's a common question.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about all these great things,
Right.
but how does it actually compare, like head to head?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's one that a lot of developers, I think, consider
Right.
when they're trying to decide, like, which language to use.
Yeah.
So I think maybe the best way to really illustrate the differences is to just kind of look at a direct comparison
Right.
across some of those key features.
Okay, so let's see how they measure up
Exactly.
in areas like syntax, null safety, and, those all-important coroutines.
Yeah, let's dive into the comparison.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've gone pretty deep into Kotlin, from its concise syntax to its powerful features.
And it's definitely a lot to cover.
And we've seen how it's being used in the real world.
In so many different ways.
Yeah. So now comes the question, I think, a lot of people listening have probably been asking themselves this whole time.
That makes sense.
Is Kotlin the right language for me?
Well, that is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And the answer, as with most things in life, is it depends.
Oh, okay. I was hoping for a more definitive answer.
Yeah.
But I guess it makes sense. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of situation.
No, not at all.
So what are some things people should consider?
Well, I think the first thing you need to consider is what you want to achieve with your coding skills.
Right.
What are your goals?
Okay.
So, for example, if you are dreaming of building Android apps, then Kotlin is pretty much a no-brainer.
Really?
Yeah, it's like the language of choice
Okay.
for Android development, backed by Google itself.
So if you're picturing yourself creating the next viral mobile game or, some handy productivity app, Kotlin should be at the top of your list.
Absolutely.
Okay, but what if your interests lie elsewhere?
Right.
Like web development or back-end systems or even data science?
Yeah, then I think the decision might require a little bit more thought. Because while Kotlin is versatile and gaining traction in those areas,
Right.
other languages might be more dominant or maybe even better suited for specific tasks.
It's all about choosing the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
Another key factor, I imagine, is your current programming experience.
Definitely.
So if you're already familiar with Java,
Right.
transitioning to Kotlin is probably going to be pretty easy
Oh, yeah, super easy.
because those two languages are very interoperable.
Yes.
You can use them side by side,
Side by side, yeah.
and you can even leverage your existing Java knowledge.
Definitely.
It's like leveling up your Java skills, like with a powerful upgrade.
That's a great way to put it.
What if you're a complete newbie to coding?
Right.
Like just starting out on your programming journey?
Right.
Is Kotlin a good place to begin?
That's a good question. And I think
I'm sure a lot of aspiring coders are wondering that.
absolutely. And while Kotlin is generally considered to be more beginner-friendly than some other languages out there,
Oh.
it still has its complexities.
Right.
So it's always a good idea to have at least a basic grasp of, like, programming concepts
Fundamentals.
before diving into any language.
So building a strong foundation in those programming fundamentals is always a smart move,
Always.
regardless of which language you choose.
100%.
Speaking of which, let's not forget about all those learning resources that are available for Kotlin.
Oh, yeah. Tons of them.
The community is, incredibly active,
Yeah. It's
supportive, tons of online tutorials.
lots of online tutorials, courses, forums where you can get help and connect with other Kotlin enthusiasts.
I've been really impressed by the Kotlin community. Everyone seems so willing to, share their knowledge and help each other out.
It's a very welcoming community.
It is, and it makes the whole ecosystem just so much more welcoming and accessible.
Exactly. And JetBrains, the company behind Kotlin, they actually provide excellent documentation
Oh, okay.
and actively support the community. They really are invested in making Kotlin accessible to everyone.
That's fantastic. So it sounds like there's just like a wealth of support out there
There
for
is.
anyone who wants to learn Kotlin.
Absolutely.
So for those listening who are still on the fence, what are like some compelling reasons to give Kotlin a shot?
Well, Kotlin is a language on the rise.
Okay.
Its popularity is steadily increasing. It's being adopted by major companies all over the world.
Wow.
And it's constantly expanding into these new domains.
Yeah.
So learning Kotlin today is really an investment in a future-proof skill that could open up a lot of opportunities.
It's like getting in on the ground floor of something big.
Exactly.
And beyond, like just those practical benefits.
Right.
There's also like the sheer joy, I think, of working with Kotlin.
Yeah.
It's known for its elegant syntax, its focus on safety and efficiency,
Mhm.
and its ability to kind of like empower developers to create amazing things.
Yeah, a lot of developers just find it a really enjoyable language to work with.
So it's not just about practicality, it's about finding a language that kind of like sparks your passion.
Yeah.
And makes you excited to code.
Yeah, finding that language that really clicks for you.
So ultimately, the decision of whether or not to learn Kotlin is a personal one.
It is.
So you have to weigh your goals, your current skills, and your willingness to embrace a language that's, kind of shaping the future of technology.
Exactly.
We've equipped you with knowledge, explored the pros and cons, and now it's your turn to decide.
That's right. You've got all the info.
If we've piqued your interest even a little bit,
Yeah.
I encourage you to just explore Kotlin further. You might just discover your new favorite programming language.
That's how a lot of people feel about it. It's definitely a favorite for a lot of folks.
There are so many free resources available online.
There are.
You can kind of dip your toes in the Kotlin waters without any risk and just see if it clicks for you.
Exactly. No risk. Just try it out.
And if you do take the plunge, welcome aboard.
Welcome.
The Kotlin community is always excited to welcome new members. We've only just scratched the surface here.
Oh, yeah. Just the beginning.
There's a whole world of possibilities out there just waiting to be explored.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see what people create with it.
This has been an incredible deep dive into the world of Kotlin.
It really has.
I feel like we've uncovered a treasure trove of information.
We have so much to learn and explore.
And remember, the journey of learning never ends.
It never does.
Whether you decide to delve into Kotlin or explore other fascinating areas of technology, keep that curiosity alive. Never stop expanding your horizons.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that spirit of discovery burning bright.
Couldn't agree more.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.